Hi and welcome to Chris Flies. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about something very close to my heart, instrument flying, and actually how a Sentry and an iPad together pretty much saved my life. Instrument flying is a key part of any pilot's toolkit, and every year there are far too many people who end up flying themselves into cloud, into bad weather, and kill themselves. And it's a completely avoidable situation. Firstly, obviously, as you're taught, don't fly into cloud unless you have the relevant training. And even if you've got the relevant training, don't do it unless you're regularly practicing flying on instruments. I love instrument flying, but I'm still quite nervous about getting up and flying in full IMC. You know, being in the clouds, that loss of visual reference, that feeling of disorientation, you know, it is quite challenging. I have my part instrument rating, or my IRR. This allows me to fly in cloud, it allows me to fly to a runway with an instrument approach. It allows me to do pretty much everything a full instrument rated pilot can do other than fly in the airways. And there's a bit of a debate. Is it there just to help people get out of trouble, or is it a tool that should be used and practiced and sharpened to fly on instruments? Personally, I think it's the latter. If you're going to have instrument training, why not use it? There's no point passing a test, not flying on instruments for 2 years, and then finding yourself stuck in cloud or above cloud, or having to come into an airport on instruments when you haven't done it for a long time. It is hard. This stuff is challenging and it needs to be practiced all the time. I went on a flight a few weeks ago with a good friend of mine, Will, who's appeared in a few of the videos, and we decided to fly over to North Wales. It'd be about an hour and 20 minutes to get there. The weather was mixed. There was a lot of rain forecast, some fairly heavy clouds, but it was forecast clear. So we took the decision that we would head over to Wales and we would fly VFR. So we would fly in sight of the ground. We're not above the clouds, not through the clouds. But if we encountered some clouds, we needed to go into IMC. We're both IRR trained, and we should both be able to handle a plane flying through some cloud. It wasn't thunderstorms, it wasn't really bad heavy rain, but there were going to be some decent cells. So as we head off, things are looking good. The weather's not too bad, few bursts of rain, and I'm testing out the Sentry and ForeFlight on my iPad while Will flies the plane. I was really keen to work out how well ForeFlight operates as a backup AHRS, so an artificial horizon. My view being a lot of the aircraft I fly have got fairly rudimentary instruments. Most of them are vacuum driven. In fact, all of them are vacuum driven. And my main concern is loss of instruments whilst in IMC in cloud, and then having to run a partial panel to bring the plane out of that cloud, or worse, have to divert somewhere else and fly a decent leg within the cloud. And there was a story in the press probably 2 years ago about an instructor who flew with a first-time passenger. They paid to go on their first flight experience, boyfriend and girlfriend in California, and he'd taken ForeFlight on iPad and the Sentry system so that he had a backup AHRS. And during that flight, he lost his instruments, and not only that, he was stuck above a layer of fog that went all the way up the coast and unusually all the way inland. His only option, given that he was running out of power and he was concerned that he wouldn't be able to continue to fly to the airport, was to land that aircraft through the fog, or that layer of sea cloud, or whatever we want to call it, mist, and land on a beach. And using ForeFlight, he was able to fly on instruments through the cloud, down to a beach, landed it perfectly on the beach. No one was injured, no bystanders, probably because it was foggy. And the pilot and the passengers all walked out of the plane and the plane was undamaged. I'll put a link in the video so you can watch the news report. So as I was flying with Will, lo and behold, within about 20 minutes of the flight, the AI, the attitude indicator, just decided to do a spin and then hold itself at a random angle. So we had no AI. We can still fly on partial panel, and we're taught to fly partial panel, but at the same time, I happen to have ForeFlight running with the AHRS through the Sentry device. And if this was in a situation where we were flying on instruments and relying solely on instruments, we could have used the AHRS on ForeFlight as a backup, and it would have been a very useful tool. It's not certified for instrument flying, but when you're flying an aircraft with old instruments, I have to say it was a brilliant demonstration of what can happen, what can go wrong, and the fact that I had it running and I didn't have to faff around, fiddle, switch on a new service, move the iPad, meant that we could have moved straight from the broken instrument onto ForeFlight and use that as a tool to keep us straight and level whilst we worked out what was wrong with the instruments, go back onto partial panel, get ourselves out of that situation. So, can these devices save your life? Absolutely. Are they worth having? Absolutely. Should you run them all the time? Definitely. But these are great backup tools for situational awareness. So I can't tell you how useful that was. And having just read a story where someone's instruments all went kaput in the cloud, in heavy rain, or they were flying along because they had a leak in and all their digital instruments blew. And whilst this is an incredibly rare situation, it's one that you really don't want to find yourself in, or I don't. So from now on, I'm having a backup for my backup and maybe just one more backup in case. Hope you enjoy the videos. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.